Welcome to Robert Craig's sixth in a series of virtual tastings, hosted by Elton Slone, with special guest, head winemaker Jason Price. This tasting features deep roots in the Napa Valley, with the 2014 Affinity Cabernet Sauvignon from our Coombsville Lalonde Vineyard, and the ultra-rare 2014 Robert's Block Howell Mountain Cabernet Sauvignon from Block 2 on our Winery Estate Vineyard. We hope you enjoy the tasting. If you'd like to taste alongside Elton, these wines are available on our website. Also, check video details below for links to future live virtual tastings.
All right. Hi, everybody that's just rolling in. Jason and I are going to wait a couple minutes. We're going to get things started, but we're starting with a little 2017 Gaps Crown Vineyard Chardonnay because summertime is way too long to go without crispy white wine. Oh my goodness. All right. Gosh, we got people pouring in. Another sold out show. What do we have in the time department? 2:59. Hi, everybody. Elton Slone here, your host, our special guest, Jason Price, our winemaker, here on the somewhat socially distant sofa in our tasting salon. And we have Christian Mullen closed up in his office, our estate manager, here as the moderator. So as usual, chat is turned off, but all of your questions will be viewed by Christian, and the ones that are worthy will make it through, is all I can say. So I hope that you're all having a gorgeous summer evening wherever you are out on the East Coast. For those of us in California, my God, all over Northern and Southern California, it's a massive heat wave, but thank goodness up north we don't have any fires to contend with this year. So I think it is officially over 100 degrees outside our tasting room in downtown Napa, but we turn the air conditioning down to about 55 degrees. I'm going to put on some mittens and a robe, and we're going to have some great red wine today is the bottom line. But first of all, gosh, I don't even know what week or month of COVID I remember thinking, well, you know, I hope this is all over with by May so that we don't have to deal with this, you know, any more than that. And my God, here we are. Jason has been prepping for harvest. We have the interns getting ready to move in. The press is being serviced. The grapes have turned color. So it's amazing that it's fall. And I so appreciate everybody coming to join us. What can I say? It's been incredibly tough on small wineries. About, I think, as I mentioned in my last one, 80% of the increase in revenue on the retail side has gone to the 8 largest producers in the wine business. And for those of you that know us at Robert Craig, we're not a Gallo or a Constellation. We're not a Hneus. We are a tiny little company that survived by your support. And with that being said, I was looking over the list over the last few days of the people coming in, and let me just give a very warm welcome. We have Jaden Bragg is in the house from Minneapolis, and Jonathan Van Outen and Joyce Stein. Thanks so much for joining us again. The Dicklers are here, Doug and Ellen. Andy and Tammy Nichols, right on. I miss you guys so bad. I hope life is good up north for you guys. Matt Bernal, Victor Andre. Victor, I hope you're hanging in there in the restaurant business there in South Florida. My God, it's so great to see your name on this. John Stinson, Dr. McCullough, Keith Armstrong, Dennis DiTullio. Dennis, 6 for 6, well done. Keith Armstrong, let me see, Jim Moody, Scott Hendrickson, Rick Dennett, and Christy Shyrock, thank you so much. Sam Crownsgold, James Hendrickson, Debbie Weir, Deborah, good to see your name on here. So you're back again, 6 for 6. Robert Ludwig, Judy B, Judy Burkhardt, hey, you guys in Chicago. Courtney Kane, Max Weaver, Laurelyn Kane, Mary Bellinotti Watson. So Skip, I know you're lurking somewhere around where the good wine is being open. Thanks so much for joining us, you guys. You guys are 5 for 6. It's impressive. The Curleys, yes, Brendan Steve, Robert Ludwig, Philip Margraf, Ty Hansen. Ty, hello. Great to have a local in the house. Manny Medina, right on. More from Florida. I love the Florida wine crews getting involved. Keith Harrington, Richard James, Jason Guerrero, Kansas City Wine Crew. Love you guys. Hope you're having a beautiful evening there. Danny and Debbie McQuarrie. Again, happy anniversary to you guys. 44 years and going strong. Brian Meyer, Justin Gress, Peter Brussock, and the best for last, the Vales, Jeffrey and Brooke. So I may have missed some people, I'm sorry, but we have a whole slew, but these are the folks that have been such hardcore supporters. I wanted to say thank you very much. So today, of course, we start with white wine always at Robert Craig. It's usually about 4 p.m. in the afternoon on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but on Friday, 3 o'clock, all is legal here at the Craig office. And, you know, today I was hoping to have Lynn Craig, a special guest, but Lynn unfortunately has had some family trouble. And so sending our good thoughts your way, Lynn, if you're on and watching this today. It's just been what a challenging time this has been for everybody, but it is Friday night and we're going to have great wines. And really what I wanted to do with this one was kind of honor the legacy of Bob Craig by putting out the wine that I named after him, Robert's Block, because gosh, the fruit from that was always our favorite in the blind tastings from Howell Mountain. And asking Jason, you know, what's your favorite Robert Craig wine? He, without hesitation, said Robert's Block. So we saved the best for first. And then what do you pair with Robert's Block if you're going to do anything? And that wine would be Affinity. So we're doing kind of a Prince and the Pauper theme where, you know, with Affinity, it's not going to break the bank. If you open these two wines, they're both magnificent wines. We'll talk about the 14 vintage, but this is a real examination of Affinity is down south in Napa in the Coombsville area, all 5 of the Bordeaux 5 varieties. We'll start there. And then we're going to, if you managed, I mean, we had a hell of a time opening the Robert's Block in the office. So I was just having the discussion with Jamie that I think the wax was a little too thick. So hopefully you have a pet beaver or a hamster or something at home that you can just let it happen, just let it gnaw on that thing for a few minutes. But hopefully you got the corks open okay. And we've had the wine open here for a few hours. And I mean, when was the last time you tasted Robert's Block, Jason?
14? It's been a while.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it.
With only we made 50 cases of the 14, but 25 in all of the other vintages. We made a 2010, a 2012, a 13, and 14, and then we won't have it again until 2018, I don't believe. Well, we will have a 15, but the vintages have been so sparse that of those precious barrels, maybe only 6 barrels. If one has to, you know, go to Robert's Block, we want to make sure that this wine goes to the estate wine every year. So with that being said, let me just get you all ready for what we're going to do here. And here we are. I want you to just relax, sit back for a moment, feel the Howell Mountain vibe wash over you. I think most of the people on this list have been up to the Howell Mountain facility, which today is, oh my gosh, it's baking hot. This morning, I went for a bike ride at 6:30 a.m. onto Mount Tam near my home in South Salito, and it's usually cold. You have to wear a vest, and it was 95 degrees on the top of the mountain this morning. So I know all you guys in Kansas City are saying, whoop-de-doo, it's 95 degrees at midnight here. But at any rate, that is our beautiful Howell Mountain home. And the first thing we're going to be doing is going to Affinity with this red soil type. And as we contemplate Affinity, I want you all to meet the man, Jason Price. So Jason started with us in 2015, but he, as assistant winemaker to Stephen Tebb, and Stephen left us after 10 years of brilliant service because he was having family issues. Unfortunately, his wife was ill, and he wanted to go spend time with her and their kids in Lake Tahoe. So Stephen, if you're on today, we miss you and love you, but with Jason, I believe that we've made an upgrade, and Jason's had a long journey with us, and I thought it's high time, since Jason was made head winemaker in August of last year in 2019, and has had really already a profound effect on the wines. I wanted everybody to kind of meet Jason and have a chance today. You know, you gotta be easy on him, folks. Don't ask him too many tough questions, because Jason doesn't like to get on live TV too much, but we're lucky to have him here. So Jason, what in the hell made you want to be a winemaker? Didn't you start out in Pennsylvania?
I did, yeah. So when I graduated college, I was a chemistry major, and I spent 9 years in laboratory environments, professional laboratories.
You can tell Jason is definitely from the lab.
Yeah. And my first trip to Napa Valley was in 1999, and it was a wine tasting vacation. And I spent my first day here in Napa. I checked into the B&B, and I immediately was hooked. It's not just the vast quantity of wineries, and the beautiful vineyards, but it was just like this beautiful place that was 100% dedicated to something that we're all so passionate about and mystified by it too.
The B&B culture, you eat the steel cut oatmeal and pet the cat and listen to their stories.
I brought that.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
That's why I always just do a large hotel.
Yeah. I'm gonna recalibrate it. Well, it was during that trip. I visited a tasting room on the valley floor, and I won't name the winery, but I bellied up to the bar, and I looked to my left, and through the window pane, there was this fully equipped laboratory. And I feel naive saying it now, but back then I was like, does someone get paid to do this? And someone get paid to test wine? And so I asked the tasting room associate, I'm like, is this someone's full-time job? And they said, yeah, we have a lab staff. And it immediately made me, dislike my current position, which actually I think my boss at that time was watching, so not really true. But
hey,
but it planted the seed. It totally planted the seed. And so 8 years later, I was given a really rare, unique opportunity. I was living out on the East Coast, and I was given this opportunity to apprentice at a winery in Pennsylvania in Lancaster County.
Wow. So Rachel Miller, our old wine club manager, not old wine club manager, but retired wine club manager, hails from Lancaster as well.
Yeah,
so
she was from New Holland, which was right down the road from where I worked.
Well, I'm just glad you're allowed zippers on your pants and buttons on the shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I took that job without a heart, without any hesitation. I left my pretty well-paying job and went and lived in a barn for 3.5 years, and farmed and made Pennsylvania Pinot Grigio and Chardonnay.
Wow.
Which was, those mid-Atlantic summers are pretty harsh on those grapes. So
that's very exciting, I guess. If you're camping and there's nothing else available, you're down that Lancaster County wine.
Yeah.
Well, and so when did you come to Napa Valley?
So after 3.5 years there, I kind of felt like I had gleaned as much as I could from that experience. And it was kind of the question, do you remain a Pennsylvania winemaker, or do you step your game up? And so at the age of 35, at the end of the 2009 harvest, I applied to Davis. I immediately got in my car and drove out to San Francisco. And I waited 5 months, and finally in April, I got my acceptance letter. And that was the moment I felt very justified, like all those risks were worth taking. This is what was going to happen.
And then you graduated from Davis with a degree in fermentation science?
Yeah, viticulture and enology. Yep, in 2012.
All right.
Yeah.
My favorite joke, because Stephen also graduated from Davis, as did our former assistant winemaker, Chris. I used to say, what do you say to the Davis graduate who shows up on your porch at 7 o'clock at night? Give me the pizza and get off my porch. But that's a terrible joke. That's a terrible joke. Davis is the best. I would never be able to pass muster at Davis. I have a degree and complain about the wine science, not fermentation science. Like, this has got to get better. So let's get into the first wine, Jason. So you got to Napa Valley, and when did you get to Napa Valley? In 2013, is that right?
In 2013, correct.
Worked for Checkerboard.
I did. Yeah.
Slightly different culture than at Robert Craig Winery.
Yes, say that. Yeah, safely.
And we were lucky to get Jason after he started his stint with Mountain Cabernet. So if anybody has ever had Sawhorse cider, that was Jason's baby too. And now he's out of the cider business because he has to focus full time on wine. But if you ever get a chance to taste that cider, it really is extraordinary. So let's, without further ado, I hope you guys are all starting on Affinity because I'm ready for this wine. And for me, the 14 vintage to me was always kind of stuck between, here we are, 14 Affinity Cabernet Sauvignon. And as I read from the front label, I finally put the definition on because everybody like, why do you call it infinity? And I'm like, it's not infinity, it's affinity. The perfect unit of components sharing a special origin. So because it's always all 5 of the Bordeaux 5, and this has been our forgotten wine historically through the years because it's our least expensive. People assume that the quality level can't be as high. And it's funny, the one year that it got 96 points from the Robert Parker Jr., not Lisa Priddy Brown. Lisa, if you're watching this, I hope you can go soak your head under some cold water for a while. But it was funny because he gave it 96 points in the 07 vintage and thought he did so because he thought he had the pricing wrong and thought that this was our most expensive bottle of wine and that the others were at the Affinity price point. So it goes to show you that without preconceived notion that this could be truly an amazing bottle of wine. Let's get to my fantastic photos. So here we have the soil from Affinity. This is obviously red soil, high iron content, what's called a basalt series soil, which is volcanic. It's very rocky and tough to manage. Here's a little shot that I took while we were at Don Giovanni during the fires in 2018 of all things, where nobody had any power. And you can still buy Affinity on their wine list for like $80 a bottle. So they're really taking a low mark on it. But if you ever have the chance to have Sparce Gaia Sparce 97, my God, what a wine. But the Affinity, the great thing about the wine is with the acid content in the wine, it does not feel out of place when you're having tremendous European wines on the table next to it. So here's a shot of the Affinity Vineyard. This is looking from Bob Craig's front porch down toward the barn. You can see that the vines are old. They're almost 40 years old now. The soils have been tilled up, but very rocky. That's a beautiful shot right there. Here's consulting winemaker Keith Emerson with his back to us, probably arguing with Jason about how much fruit they want to drop. And then here's a shot going back up. You can see that right up above there, at the top of the picture, that is the Napa Country Club, one of the holes up there. So you have this very shallow, rocky soil throughout the property. And if anybody wants the house, it's on sale right now for $3.9 million. Come and get it. Come and get it. So we're going to go to Howell Mountain next. So that is the end of the Affinity photographs, but I wanted to give you guys an idea of what it looked like. And Jason, what would you say are the hallmarks for you of the 2014 vintage?
Yeah, I think as winemakers, I think most winemakers, we kind of characterize, vintages by the most challenging aspects of them. For example, like the 19 for me will always be the backup generator vintage.
Yes.
and
for me.
Yeah. And 14, that was the year of the Napa quake. So you'll hear it referred to as the earthquake vintage. But as far as the growing season, I think it's pretty widely accepted that 14 throughout Napa Valley is just an outstanding quality vintage. It's just another vintage in a string of good vintages. 2012, 13, and now 14 that we're having here. We had long, high growing degree days, but with moderate temperatures, like not a lot of heat spikes like we're experiencing now.
Yeah, this is really intense heat for late August, but Napa Valley will do that.
Yeah, we can work with it, but we didn't have to in 14. So we got great yields, big tannins in the 14 wines. And the phenology of the grapes, so the grape maturity, we had bud break early, which you'd think, might be a concern with frost, but thankfully 2014 was low frost hours. So, and even in our mountain vineyards, not too worried.
Yeah, we don't
frost.
even have a wind machine up top because there's no real frost pockets on our slope is steep enough on Howell Mountain that the cold air doesn't pool, and we've never really had a problem. Yeah. And so, for us, I always like when we get early development, particularly phenologic development up there, because the fact that you don't want to bite your fingernails off at the end of the year when you have rain coming and need to leave the fruit to hang a little bit longer to get, because you have such large tannins on these mountain vineyards that if the tannins aren't resolved, the wines taste like, 1985 Diamond Creek or something, where the tannins just kind of completely overwhelm the fruit. And you also need to be able to extract enough color to blend with that tannin. I know is always what you fight with up there. But I mean, tasting this wine, Jason, I got to tell you, Stephen started with the vintage, and then Jason blended and bottled this wine. I mean, this is right when you first got to the winery. So we did the final blending and bottling. And I'm telling you, this 14 is amazing to me. I mean, it is really a gorgeous glass of wine. So this is one, folks, I would leave in the decanter for a while. I mean, the color is so young on this. And the profile, what I love in Affinity, again, is almost tastes European in that has this real bright brace of acid. Most California Cabernets are usually the pH levels are, 3.9 to 4.0 is very standard bearer in the Napa Valley. And this is straight up Bordeaux. It's like 3.66 or 3.63 a lot of times, which I think, what is this one? 3.66.
Got it.
Which is amazing to me, how the level of acid just makes this wine lively on the palate. It has this great nerve. It stays young so long. I think we did a webinar a couple back that was a matter of time, it was called, and we did a 2017 Affinity current club release and a 2010. And like this 14, the 10 was just so young and vibrant. But 14 is the second vintage for us that we went all estate in Affinity. So it's just a much better wine, I think, than the 2010 for me. What do you think of this?
Well, this is exactly what you want a 6-year-old cab to taste like. I mean, you put it in a bottle and hope for the best. You've done everything you can to make it, age worthy. And it's got that freshness, the balanced, fruit with that lower pH, which is just, it's held. It's kind of the way it went in the bottle. It doesn't taste much different. It's a solid freaking wine.
Wow. I feel like, this one makes me want to listen to some very loud opera or something. It is really a glorious wine. And all 5 of those grapes grooving together, when we get that, when the fruit comes off those old vines, I mean, we have, what else is on there? I know 5C is the predominant rootstock, but
the Merlot is on 1103P, and then we've got a little 3309.
3309.
It's mostly 5C.
Yeah, and there's one section where we should have planted the whole thing on 110R, which is works much better on super rocky soil, which is a lot of what we have planted, which is a lot of the rootstock up on Howell Mountain. But I mean, they didn't rip it right. So the vineyard is a royal, pain in the ass to manage, frankly, but and it's very expensive to manage, but it produces this wine. I mean, we just don't want to give it up. So even if we sell the house, folks, don't worry about it. If one of you comes up with my 3.9, we'll be just fine, because we're going to have a contract for that fruit pretty much as long as I live. But, since I'm not living in Napa Valley and Bob's gone and Lynn's in Tucson, it's a great house, but we don't need to have that debt in the company. So don't worry if you've heard Affinity is for sale. The wine is not for sale, just the property. And then we'll, of course, contract as a necessity this fruit for the coming years. But it's such an exciting wine for me to sit here and enjoy. What a wine. I cannot think of another wine from Napa Valley. Maybe Chapelet Signature Cabernet is very good. In this price range is really the only one that comes to mind. I mean, to me, if you're a Caymus drinker, God love you, but that's, 58,000 cases produced every year, nowhere near this kind of nerve and expression. This is 3,500 cases produced, and what a wine this is. I keep feeling like 2014 should be the current vintage, but the years pass very quickly.
They should.
So for me, the 14 vintage, I think about it coming in the middle of 13, which was such a classic vintage, and 16. I thought 2012 was way overrated. I thought Christian sending us instruction from over. But I thought the 2014 vintage, to me, between 13 and 16 and 15 was all about the structure. And coming before 15, because in the winery, we're trying the finished wine, we're trying the wines that are yet to come, and we're trying the wines that are a year old, usually if we're in the marketplace working. So you're trying all the time 3 vintages of the wine. I always thought, 14 is just not going to be, it's a good vintage, but it's not going to be the vintage that, my favorite, because it's so open. And I was totally wrong. I have to say, I've been totally wrong about this vintage. I mean, this wine is not even getting a leg out of bed. I thought they were so open and lush. And I think it was just the nature of what do you think, Jason? Was it the fact that the tannins were also resolved? We had great color count that year.
Yeah, I think it is it's the bottle aging that's kind of resolved the wine. We did taste them in barrel before they went to bottle. Of course, echoing what you were just saying, but I think just the 6 years in bottle sort of balances wine out.
But the 15s to me they really needed some bottle age. But this one I thought was more ready to go. But now there's such a reward for just, if you can, I always tell people, you can wait till the 6-year mark with Robert Craig, which means 3 years after you buy him, because we age him for 3 years, basically almost 2 years in the, in the barrel, and then another year in the bottle before release. But boy, what do you think, Christian? You loving this wine?
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really.
I've already drained it.
There's no more out here, by the way.
Yes, there is.
That's right. Well, so before we move on to the Roberts block, the Mac Daddy, today's a fast and furious one. Everybody just stay cool, keep drinking this Affinity down. What do you, Jason, in terms of your work, you had a brief stint at Checkerboard for almost 2 years, and then on to Robert Craig. And what do you like about working at Robert Craig? I mean, is it the vineyards? What is it that you enjoy about working at Robert Craig Winery now that you've been here for 5 years?
Sure. For those of you that have been up,
I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, well,
I did not prepare
the
for
leadership.
that question.
The leadership of this company is truly sublime.
Yeah, no. For those of you that have been up to the winery, it's absolutely beautiful. So that's an easy response to that question. But as far as the work itself, Elton, you allow us in production to have a good bit of autonomy, and you trust us to make the right decisions to make these wines. And it's sort of having that that freedom to make these decisions quickly, because a lot of these winemaking decisions need to be made quickly. We need to be able to pivot and and not have to have a conference to make winemaking decisions.
Well, you know what my style parameters are.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
We want to do. But at the same time, before anything is done, I definitely sit in on the blendings. But
yes.
I don't want to be, I can't be the winemaker at Robert Craig. That's why you're making your money.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to hashing out where the dollars are allocated, I certainly get involved in that side of the blending. But I say, Jason, you have a very similar palate to mine, which is great. And so I think we have a real, you and Keith and I have a really great, and now Connor coming on, we have this great symbiosis where we're able to move forward. So in looking at this, where do you want to take the wines over the next decade while you're here?
Sure. So if we look to the future, we've already started looking towards the future. We've made some significant changes in 2020. Starting with changing our farming companies. Having Phil Couturier out in Mountain Veeder and now farming organic, which is something I think we're all very proud of. Having Silverado up on Howell Mountain, and then just already, we haven't harvested fruit yet. Just seeing the conditions of the vineyard and how much they've improved.
Yeah, and many of you that are on here may have met Pete Richmond, who farms our Howell Mountain properties. That is Silverado Farming Company, and Phil Couturier was on last time. He was an absolute gas. I just love that man. Walsh we had before was our first major foray into a major high quality farming company, and they were terrific. But I decided we would go out and up the ante, spend more money, and really look to make what I consider to be the best wine in Napa Valley, hands down. And so you were saying, I mean, what about the oak program?
Yeah, and that we're changing as well. And historically we've sort of had this like spice rack approach to the way we do our oak aging. It's kind of like throwing a bunch of different coopers, at one particular lot of wine, and it has merit because when you marry that wine together, you've got this complex level of oak. But where does it come from? So I think we've decided let's throw the best oak at the best wines, and really kind of pare down the number of coopers. So for example, in Howell Mountain, really focusing on Terranceau, focusing on Darnajou, decreasing the amount of new oak, sort of bringing the used oak up a little bit, which is a common trend we're seeing in the valley. These grapes have so much fruit flavor and spice on their own. We just don't want to hide it necessarily. So we just don't.
That's right. And getting Darnajou barrels, I feel, is, for those of you who haven't heard of Vincent Darnajou, you're lucky because, it's like when Shelley discovered Louboutin shoes. It's really hit to the pocketbook. And, you have to see, Luc Morlaix had to come up to the winery, who's their broker, and make sure that our wines were worthy. Then we got an allocation, and before they tasted the wine, they said, oh, we might be able to do 3 or 4 barrels this year. And we ended up with 20 barrels. After they tasted the wine, they were thrilled with the wines. And so it's very difficult to even come by the ingredients to make great wine. But the whole idea is to, what I wanted was not so many coopers. I wanted to have each wine have its own signature. And so, Jason, you can talk to the fact that Affinity, I mean, there's no way we can use, Terranceau and Hermitage, very aggressive barrels on Affinity,
Nope.
which needs a more elegant barrel, versus Howell Mountain and Mount Veeder that are humongous wines that can take, massive amounts of wood without even showing it.
Yeah, we're not going to be throwing Terranceau at Affinity. We're going to carefully select the oak program for Affinity that matches that vintage, actually. So, and we have those. We've selected them, and it's definitely pared down a lot, and I'm excited about it. So it's, tasting these wines in the future, when you taste the 2020 Affinity, the 21, the 22, we're going to be keeping this oak program consistent. And so the variables that you taste will be vintage variables. They won't be oak variables. So I think I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Well, Jason, well done with this 14 Affinity. I have to say, I don't even think I've picked up my 14, owner's allotment yet from the Jackson Street warehouse. And man, I'm going to go over and like put these away double time. I mean, what an amazing classic wine that is. So from the Popper, we move to the Prince. Let's go to, that's the shot of the Affinity Vineyard. So now we get up to what is the standard on our Howell Mountain Winery estate property, where, so these are these big red volcanic rocks. And on the east side of Napa Valley, as you're going up the Silverado Trail, heading north towards St. Helena from downtown Napa, you're to the right side of your automobile is what's called the Vaca Range. On the other side of the valley, on the western side, is the Mayacamas. And whereas the Mayacamas was pushed up from the ocean floor by earthquake, the Vaca Range was created from the eruption of the Sierras. So that's where, Mount St. Helena, a lot of people think is a volcano. Wrongly, it's just a giant volcanic rock. And that is the soil structure. It is just this magma that came in. I always want to say magma, like The Spy Who Shagged Me, but it's an incredible soil that we have this white soil on Candlestick, and there's very red basalt soil here, but we have this one patch you can see of this tufa shelf that is all over Candlestick, but this is the one spot on our estate property. You're on Robert's Block looking down the entrance to the driveway here. So this is what makes this block so special, is it's just, I mean, the subsoil is nothing. And when Bob Craig ripped this, I think they did it with just shovels or something, or a backhoe, because nobody did any Abreu dynamiting up there because the roots have a very difficult time getting purchased. And we average about 1 ton an acre on this full, acre of blocks 1 and 2 up on this side of the driveway. It's to your right side for those of you who've been up. And this is looking down into Childs Valley / Pope Valley. You can see Mount Konocti way off in the distance there to your left. Well, not quite in this photo, but it's just to the left of the photo as you look out. And whoops, that's more of that. There's another good shot of the block. So here are some of the grapes. I took a shot of this last week when I was up going through veraison. And, all the valley floor has been through veraison for some time, but our grapes are finally just getting all the way there. And you can see there's been a nice thinning pass done by the folks at Pete Richmond's guys at the farming company. But look how small those bunches are and how loose. So we don't have any problem with mildew or rot. It's really a shot just from my iPhone of us being above the fog every year. That's not Robert's block. That's looking out on the other section of the vineyard from the rock wall. But you get this really slow development because it's cooler up there during the day, an average of 12 degrees, and at night it stays warm. So you get that, non-photosynthetic lignification, the browning of the stems and seeds, and you get these really beautiful chewy tannins, even though the wines have harsh tannins. So again, Robert's block is on your left of this picture. That's a shot taken this winter. Again, just the iPhone. And man, if you get a chance to, if you've never been up to Robert Craig Winery, it's right on the summit of the entirety of Napa Valley. We're like one of the 3 highest, or all our neighbors, vineyard sites in the entirety of Napa. So what a place. All right, Kristen, do we have any questions so far?
Yeah, Jim Freeman asks, what's next for us? Are any cool new projects coming up?
There are a lot of cool new projects. I'm starting a car wash in front of the taste room for a little extra cash right now, Jim, since all the restaurants are closed. No, the first new wine that we've made in a while is the Howell Mountain Cuvée from Young Vines. That is a super treat. Stay tuned, because I think we're going to have a sparkling wine before too long, because I am a lover of Chardonnay-based sparkling wine, Blanc de Blanc. And Stephen worked on me for a long time, and I know Jason was beating the drum in the background on that. So stay tuned, Jim. There may be sparkling wine coming from the Craig, so we can finally do one of these damn things with caviar. Anything else?
Yes, the COO said no to any sparkling wine. I just got messaged.
Kirsten, don't worry about it. Let me see. All right. Okay, Christian Mullen, good. We're all good. Yeah, so Robert's block, to me, as we get started on this baby, this is just such a rare wine. And as a rule, this is the 14. As a rule, I'm kind of a trophy Cabernet hater in the Napa Valley. When Philip Togny raised their price to such an incredible extent after getting a perfect score from Galone on their 13 vintage wine, now I can't show my face at the winery anymore. I wrote them such a poison pen letter about doubling their price after getting a perfect score. But it's very difficult to come by great wines that I feel are worth the price. I'm still on the Isley Vineyard mailing list because I just love that vineyard site. From the time it was Arajo to now the Latour folks own it, another insurance company out of France. I think they're also affiliated with the people that purchased Outpost. But the French are looking for places because these kinds of wines are possible in the mountains of Napa Valley. Obviously, the Tesseron family buying our Pimray vineyard, But with Robert's block, I just wanted to say, hey, we have this unique block. It's not like a reserve wine. The reason it's so expensive is it's crazy expensive to farm. And then we put it, you have to farm it with toenail clippers. And then we put it in this giant Hermes bottle, which, you could beat a hole in the hood of somebody's car and never break the bottle of wine. It is a serious bottle. So Jason, when we're doing Robert's block, I always say we have to have the largest portion of that go into the estate Cabernet because it's such an important component. How do you select, what barrel do you usually select for this wine?
Yeah, so when we ferment this wine, and you're right, the acreage of these two blocks, we don't get a whole lot of wine off of here. We'll get, 4 barrels, let's say. That is actually pretty typical. That's what happens. And so we will barrel age those wines, and we'll pick 2 different coopers, or possibly even 3 different coopers. And then about mid-age.
So and those coopers are usually Taranto, Baron.
And that's, we'll do a Legrand, they call Halo, but Taranto, Baron are usually the 2 stars.
I like the Halo.
Yeah, absolutely. But about mid-age of this wine, that's when, taste the barrels and see which 1 barrel or 2 barrels. Are we going to do a 25 case production or a 50 case production? And then select the 2 barrels that we want to just say, this is Robert's block, 100% Cabernet from blocks 1 and 2. And that's the way it stays. If there's any balance left, that'll go to the Howell Mountain Estate. It just makes the Howell Mountain Estate that much better.
Yeah.
Such a star quality.
I mean, I always hate to pull this wine away from the estate, but it is such a signature block of wine. And what's amazing with Walsh and then Pete Richmond farming it, now all the lower blocks are tasting like Robert's block of the vineyard. So that's been the major change in having a really tremendous farming companies come in to work on these properties. As you can just see, a consistent quality rise. And I'm so looking forward to the 2020 wine that Pete and the guys have been working on from, at $25,000 an acre. It better totally blow my mind when I get it in the bottle or they're fired. So what a wine. Christian, are you feeling this one here?
It's amazing. It always is.
I think we should just tell Kirsten, who doesn't want to make sparkling wine, that she can't have any of this.
Okay.
She's back in the office right now. So this is, Jason, 100% Cabernet. I think one year we might have had a little Malbec or some Merlot, but it's pretty much all out Cabernet Sauvignon, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, kind of the rule is that, we will shift a little Robert's block if we have to with a little excess gallons, but nothing else touches Robert's block. It's 100% itself. It's pure. Doesn't need anything else, I don't think.
Well, sometimes to me, Cabernet can seem a little bit rustic, particularly from the mountains if it's by itself. And this wine has so much complexity and class and flow. My God. I mean, whether it's Harlan or Screaming Eagle, which I consider, very nice wines, but terrible buys. Like I said, I'm on Isley's list. And when I put our wine, even our estate wine in brown bag, I consider it every bit the wine that those wines are. But this wine is clearly, it's like drinking Dalla Maya, it's such a rare wine. And I thought for this tasting, while we're all trapped inside and there's all this anxiety over COVID and oh my gosh, at our company, we've certainly experienced all kinds of loss and bad news over the last few months. I thought, what we need to do is open something really memorable and just charge not a premium. We never really even do a release on this wine. It's always been when it's ready to drink, then we go find out about getting it waxed and engraved, which we're doing for the 15 right now because the 15 was so closed and hard. But it's just a cool wine. And what better way? I'm so glad that my people down in Miami can be tasting this, and our folks in my hometown of Indianapolis are tasting this. We have former Napans now or Bay Area folks that are living up in Washington State now. I know the Nichols are here having this wine, and all the people that have been here, I know, like I think Brooke and Jeffrey Vale were here when we were all at the French Laundry drinking mega vintages of this when the earthquake hit right afterward, and everybody got to see me naked in the parking lot of the North Block Hotel at 4 o'clock in the morning when the earthquake hit. So, but what a wine.
Yes, yeah, it's beautiful.
So what do you think for the future of this wine, Jason? What would you do differently than what you're doing right now?
Well, we're gonna maintain what kind of, well, the farming is difficult with this wine. We just did a bunch of replants. So, we did have some vines that were suffering because of the condition of the soils. So we just did a bunch of replants in blocks 1 and 2, just to keep the health of the wine steady so we can continue this production. To move forward correctly with this wine, we would have to, we don't get that much yield. So, fermenting this wine is difficult because we don't have the correct capacity to the storage space or fermenting. So trying to look maybe forward to getting some smaller tanks maybe. And
do you guys hear the capital expenditure need in his voice right now as a winemaker? That's where it always starts, Elton. So yeah, some smaller tanks.
Yeah, but now that we're allocated with Darnageux, going to be looking at maybe a barrel of Darnageux with this and a Terranceau, and then and just continuing to improve the intensity of this. It's already super intense and concentrated. I mean, that's just the nature of these blocks. I mean, they kind of self-regulate themselves. We talk about these low yields. It's not that what we're out there dropping all this fruit.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be out there. I feel like a bird if they drop any fruit from Robert's block. I'll be out there with a pan, sticking it back, and putting it back on my kitchen table. Oh my gosh, there's just nothing on that block.
But I expect with Silverado, we're going to see, increased intensity, increased concentration out of these blocks.
Yeah, I just what a pleasure it is to drink this wine. I as we go through here on this summer night, I just want to again thank all you guys for the continued support of our little winery. It's been so much fun for me. Shelly and Toonces, I know, are my cat are watching from home, and Shelly is not happy at all. I'm going to bring her in for the next one. Hopefully. I wanted to do these from the winery so we could have a nice backdrop from the top of Howell Mountain. But unfortunately, if anybody, Jason tries to get his work done up there and the internet is in, it's out. It's in, it's out. So one of these days we'll talk Comcast into bringing a line up there. But let me tell you that I've done a lot of talking and that hasn't happened yet. But these 14s, oh my God, I'm having another pull on this one right here. Jason, would you like a little?
Yes.
But
thank you.
As American wines go, to me, it really doesn't get much better than this at 6 years from anybody in the Napa Valley, regardless. Of course, this wine's $300 a bottle, so you would expect it to be great. But again, the Tesserons have started on Mount Veeder at $350 a bottle, and I think my Islay Vineyard went from $300 or $290 a bottle to, $330 to $410 to now $540 a bottle this year, which it's breathtaking. At a certain point, I'm like, our Howell Mountain is as good as our state Howell Mountain. Not even the Roberts block is the same quality level. Islay has a very intense signature, and I hate to think of people having to spend that kind of money to have a truly great bottle of wine. So if you can afford it, more power to you. But at a certain point, I think, oh my gosh, this is getting to be ridiculous. But with our vineyards, what I hope to be able to bring to everybody here that's on board and all of our wine clubbers and customers is, I think like Rick Foreman's wine, there are still a few left in the Napa Valley that make these beautiful wines, some of the very best, where the prices are still within reason. But Robert's block, even for me, is a major special treat. So Jason, finish me up. Where are you going to take this thing in 10 years?
Well, we already talked about the farming and, just improving, the farming on Howell Mountain and on Mount Veeder, and, just increasing the grape quality, the balance in the tannins and the potential of the color. That's so important, especially when we're fermenting these wines, to be able to start with something that's going to work. We don't have to just do crazy extents to get the color that we need, because to get color, you're getting tannin. And so,
And we already have plentiful tannin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're no matter what kind of chef you are, if you're making a tomato salad, if you don't start with great tomatoes, you're not going to be able to make great salad no matter what you do, no matter how much olive oil is stuck on there, right? So you're going to work on the farming in the winery. The oak program is changing to have a signature oak treatment for each different wine we're making.
Yep. Yeah. And the last thing, or the third thing, not the last thing, but one of the things is just continuing to, maintain our Napa Green, sustainability certification. Napa Greens, they're changing their standards every year, and it forces us to just be good stewards of the winery and how production affects our climate. And so, when you talk about like a 10-year plan, I mean, these are system issues, and big budget issues. And so we're going to have to plan in the future and look ahead to see how we can remain relevant with this.
That's right. Bob, I know you're in heaven up there watching, but I could just murder you all over again for not putting a cave in at the damn winery and some solar. So I'm going to have to do that at some point. But yeah, we just, if you've ever been up on Howell Mountain on a day like today, it's like 100 degrees plus literally up there. And we got this wooden building where we're just, pumping the AC on the barrels. Fortunately, most of the year it's way cooler than most Napa wineries, so the wines ferment very slow. But that was one thing that I wish you did, because we're on Tufa, and back then you didn't have to have a note from your mother to the county to get a cave dug. You just basically go in there and auger it out and hope for the best when you have guests inside. But nowadays, what can I say? I mean, we're gonna, I think, to be great stewards of the land, this is what we're going to do. But when I taste these two wines, and even when I go back and taste Affinity, I mean, that is a hell of a wine. It really, Robert's Block is something special. It just has this incredible persistence on the palate, this lushness, this beautiful signature of Howell Mountain. But Affinity is not too far behind it in terms of what it is as a Cabernet Sauvignon. And with that being said, gosh, everybody, I don't want to take up any more of your Friday evenings, but thank you so much to all of the folks that came in. I know, Jason, I hope you're having a nice evening there in Kansas City with your crew out there, and all of the folks that tuned in and have come, kept coming in to see us. It is so much appreciated. I wanted to introduce everybody to Jason here today, because he's a part of the Craig future. We're going to continue to be great stewards of the land, of course, and continue to make great wines. And I'm incredibly excited about Jason's wines, which are the 18s and 19s, are his first real wines from vine to bottle, and as head winemaker here. And I think you're going to see a big change, frankly, in quality as those wines come out and release. So prepare yourself. If for all you guys that ordered our 45 bucker that tastes like 120 bucker, the Howell Mountain Cuvée, I don't know, are we completely out of that, Christian, or are there a couple cases left?
We have very little of that left. We're planning on putting the rest of it back into library and hanging on to it. So I got you.
Well, if anybody begs for the 45 bucker, you can still get a couple of cases, but it'll show you what the future is. If that's the 45 bucker from 18, what the estate wine tastes like. Just incredible. So Jason, cheers.
Cheers.
What can I tell you? It's been so great having you on board. Everybody here, safe passage through this damn virus. And I hope you're enjoying the summer nights. I have to say, Shelley and I have slowed down, and it's been wonderful just to sit outside in Sausalito and not have so much hustle and bustle. I'm looking for a little more hustle and bustle, and I'm actually looking forward to getting on a plane soon. But with any luck, we'll be through this. I wish everybody safe passage. Have a great summer. And as always, this will be up on YouTube if you want to watch it later in the coming days. And we will be on doing the second Friday, each month, coming forward with a webinar. I can't remember what the heck we're doing next time, but I know we have a good one coming up for you. And hopefully I'll be able to talk Lynn Craig into coming on board. So everybody have a great weekend. Happy summer. What can I tell you? And happy the start of harvest. Cheers.